what if I'm like watching it and you're like, Brian, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. And you're like, Brian!
You can't write a bit in unscripted. That literally defeats the purpose if you write a bit. No bits!
I just want to check the score. Can I check the score?
You can check the score. Hey everybody, we are here with another week of Unscripted, and I'm here with Brian. And today we're going to be really talking about kind of one of those universal questions of how do you know that God exists?
How?
And I think a lot of it comes down to, well, I guess we'll start here as far as what does it mean to you when you say a personal relationship with God?
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of like headspace stuff. You know, you can point to a lot of like really deep theology and like that kind of stuff.
Or even just heady philosophical stuff of why you think God exists. You
right.
know?
Exactly. Yeah. There's like all of that headspace stuff. So what does it mean to you when you talk about a personal relationship with God?
Well, so last week I started a study called God Stuff, and not too late to sign up, by the way, if you want to. It's on Zoom or in person. We have childcare. So anyway, but we were talking about how can you know God exists, and last week and then this week, we're going to be, I guess it's going to be over by the time this airs. Still not too late to
what a pitch.
Sign up.
What a sales pitch. Keep going.
Dang it. You should probably script me a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, we were talking about how do we know God exists? And there are these, major, I don't like the word evidences or proofs, but kind of things that point to God existing that I believe in. But also, you can talk about that all day long, but until it really hits home with your heart, with your soul, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? And so I think, what does it mean to have that personal relationship is there are times when I waffle on how close I feel to God. And I think that going back to some of those things like that creation exists, or that love is real, to me, that might be even the biggest proof that God exists, is that it's not just our brain chemicals swirling around. It's I've experienced love. I know what that is like, and I can't imagine that if we didn't get to experience that does that make sense?
Yeah,
it's such a personal connection.
It does. So kind of in that, can you point to a moment in your life that you were like, kind of one of those things that like, my head can't necessarily explain it, but I know that God exists?
Definitely when it finally clicked and there you go. I met Jesus for the first time, where God was real to me was, I can specifically look at one moment in my life when it finally did click. Before I would have said I believed, my parents brought me to church and stuff like that, but I was on a retreat and that's where it really went home. But then there are other times when I'm in nature. That's a big one for me, is that I can feel like God is there when I'm on the top of a big mountain and just can see the splendor. Like if this world can be so beautiful, maybe that points to a beauty that is even more transcendent and bigger than what we can just see with our own senses.
Yeah, for sure. When it's like so big that it's even hard to comprehend, then that must point to something even bigger than that too.
Yeah.
I really like that. And one thing that I always kind of say is that I personally, in my own walk, I always say I didn't have the amazing grace moment. And what I mean by that is like, I kind of did the same thing. Like I grew up in a church and like, I always kind of like knew about God and Jesus. So I didn't have that, like I was blind and then I saw a moment.
Yeah.
I had to like, my lenses kept getting taken off.
Right.
And I just, God was revealed to me more and more and more. But what would you say to someone, if someone's watching this and they're like, man, I can't point to anything like that in my life. Like, I don't think I've ever had that moment. So I don't know if God's real. Like, what would you say to somebody that's kind of going through that?
I would really have them look at what what are things in their life that they just can't really explain? And is that maybe an evidence that God is the only explanation? And even when people, I've said that to people and they're like, well, what about all the bad stuff that happens in the world? Like, why would God let that stuff happen? Well, everyone probably has something in their life where is an awful, tragic moment or an event that they wish never would have happened. We understand tragic things because we understand beauty and love and things that are worth celebrating. And that doesn't mean that, oh, well, then that makes everything okay. But it points to, we wouldn't know what bad is if we didn't know what good is, if that makes sense.
Right. No, it does. It does, yeah. It's all of those things of like, even finding that like in the moment of tragedy, being able to find that moment of calm, or like even in the moments of joy, being able to take that step back and being able to actually like soak it in.
Yeah.
I think those are the moments for me that I really can like be like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Like I see it. I see it now. Very cool. Well, thank you for joining us for this conversation. We'd love to hear any of your input or any of your questions. If this sparked anything for you, go ahead and drop it in the comments. But this is kind of what we're going to do each week, is just kind of tackling one of these like bigger questions. So if you have anything you want us to chat about, like I said, drop it in and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.